board's reorganization meeting on January 6, 2026, and posted at the Board of Education office and communicated to the Star Ledger, West Essex Tribune, tap into Livingston, and Livingston Township Clerk. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I would like to move roll call.
Mrs. Charles? Present. Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mrs. Gong?
Present.
Mrs. Kemka?
Here.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Here.
Here.
Can I have a motion to move agenda item 4.1 to the top?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So, welcome everybody. I know you're here just to see me talk about everything today, right? Well, I will talk about a little bit about our superintendent search and how it went. I think we've been updating the community, but I want to just run down exactly what happened. So in October, we had launched a comprehensive survey to define the qualities of our next leader. The response was overwhelming. It was clear. We heard from 1,620 students, 426 staff members, 1,487 parents and community members. With over 3,500 individual perspectives guiding us, the board had a clear mandate. Your feedback became the criteria by which we measured every candidate who applied. Using those community-defined goals as our North Star, we conducted a disciplined and highly competitive search. November 5th, we formally posted the opening for our superintendent. November 26th, we closed the application window, having seen 44 individuals begin the process and 29 highly qualified candidates officially submit their credentials. December 1st, the board reviewed all submitted resumes in executive session to identify those who would be best aligned with our district's needs. We conducted intensive screening interviews with 7 external candidates. Through this rigorous process, Mr. Stern emerged as the leader who most closely reflects the vision our community shared with us last October. As we look toward Mark's arrival this July, we are confident we have found a leader who possesses the professional expertise to navigate our upcoming challenges and the heart to build lasting trust. His track record is one of excellence, equity, and a deep belief that every student deserves the opportunity to thrive. Mark, the data shows that this community is deeply invested in our schools. We are excited to work alongside you as you turn that investment into shared vision for our future. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to our new superintendent, Mr. Mark Stern. So we're going to vote on it, and then the rest of the board can actually say whatever they want to say. Can I have a motion to move 4.1?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Mrs. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes, and welcome.
I can't thank you all enough. I didn't realize we have so many fans of demography here, but I'm glad you came. Thank you so much. In anticipation of tonight, I'm struck with a simple realization. This May, I turned 52, and I have spent exactly half my life serving this district. Since 2000, Livingston has been my second home, and in many ways, it has been my first. I don't just work here, I deeply care for the people, the history, and the future of the community and in our schools. I've grown up in Livingston, both as an educator and as a person, and I see this transition as a renewed commitment to the continued health and excellence of a system that I love. I cannot help but smile that tonight's meeting is being held in the LHS auditorium, where I started my career in Livingston Public Schools as an English teacher, directing the high school musicals, and losing paper airplane challenges very badly during the Lunch Olympics. Now, at my core, I am a judge's son. For better or for worse, that has shaped me into a lifelong rule follower, someone who believes deeply that honesty and integrity are not just school policies, but the only way to live. I remember working with our former superintendent, Jim O'Neill, who used to tell me that he'd never met a principal who told on himself as much as you do. I took that as a very high compliment then, and I carry the same need for unfiltered clarity and communication with me today. My intention is that our decisions remain informed and collaborative. When a decision is unpopular, which is inevitable in a district as engaged as ours, we may not agree, but you will always know the why behind it. They say that if you are the smartest person in a room, you should find yourself a different room. Well, maybe that's how I managed to stay in Livingston as long as I have, because I continue to learn from those I work with every day. I am a better educator and a better person because of the incredible relationships I formed here. From past superintendents and administrators who have mentored me, to the dedicated and talented teaching and support staff who are the heartbeat of our mission to empower all to learn, create, contribute, and grow by cultivating safe, caring, and brave classrooms. It was not until I left daily life in the classroom that I understood what great teaching looks like, which is why I value instructional rounds the way I do, because we truly have experts in the field. I am lucky to work with creative administrators and supervisors who push the boundaries of what is possible in our increasingly adaptive schools. Gaining a greater balcony view, I understand what commitment looks like as our secretarial, custodial, and tech teams, who often, when working at their best, are unsung heroes. I know I have it here somewhere. I lost my place, but I'm going to find it momentarily. Who, when working at their best, are unsung heroes as they ensure the school experience is prepared and well-run as it can be. I appreciate our parents who support, promote, and champion our schools and our learning culture. We are so fortunate to have a Board of Education, past and certainly present, that set the standard for public schools as partners in establishing clear objectives, expectations, and criteria for who we are, what we stand for, and why we do what we do. And most of all, the students of Livingston, the motivated learners and conscientious friends who make the buildings come alive with their curiosity and desire to make sense of the world around them. Our success is also built on the interconnected strength of our community partnerships. I deeply value the working relationships we have forged over the years with our mayors, town council, and town manager's office, as well as the Livingston Police, Fire Department, and First Aid Squad. I have had the privilege of collaborating with them in the best of circumstances, and perhaps more importantly, of leaning on their strengths and expertise during our most challenging moments. And of course, I know how lucky I am to have the love and support of my family, especially Lauren, the superintendent of the Stern family, who has always encouraged me to grow in the Livingston public school community, maybe because that keeps me out of the house, and my sons, Isaac and Max, who keep me grounded and certainly keep me humbled. As we look forward to the 2026-2027 school year, I am incredibly grateful for the 6 months of transition ahead of us under the leadership of our current superintendent, Dr. Fish. I value your expertise, your balance, and your wisdom greatly. My finger strength is going to wear out, so I will bring this to an end. I am excited to continue to serve Livingston as a collaborative leader with the honesty you expect and the dedication that this district deserves. We have important work ahead between an expanding town, a growing student population, and a critical need for space. These are challenges, yes, but they are also signs of a thriving community where people want to be. Thank you for your trust and for the opportunity to continue to serve Livingston. I am eager for the next 26 years of growth, adapting to meet the needs of our students while remaining fiercely true to who we are as a district. Go Lancers.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. That was beautiful. Would any of the other board members like to say something?
I would just say congratulations to us all, first of all, and of course, congratulations to you, Mark. We're very excited. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. Heard so many good feedbacks after we publicly announced this news. And from this room today, you can feel the warmth, the heart, and this is not every school district could have. So we are very grateful. Thank you.
Every decision we make up here, I have voted with confidence, and there will be no decision I will make that I am more confident in than the one I'm about to vote on. Congratulations.
Congratulations. It was wonderful to see all of the history in the room at the reception before we came to this meeting. It's just evidence of all of the talent that we've had throughout Livingston Public Schools history. And so many people showed up to support you, who may have taught with you or may have partnered with you around projects during their time here, to the current staff. And there seems to be so much energy. I was just making regular plans with a friend the other day, and she wrote, "By the way, what took you so long to make this decision?" And so I think that it was just an expectation in the community that somebody who has served here so well as a teacher and an administrator, logical next step for you, and we look forward to working with you. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Stern. I've already said all the appreciation I have for you. It really has been the theme that I have heard. What took you so long? And I just keep joking around that it was just, I had to come on board, right? But welcome, and we are really excited to keep working with you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Next, we have the superintendent's report.
Yes, we do. Oh, microphone.
I'm excited.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fishbein, and congratulations, Mr. Stern. Excellent. Since I heard you're a theater person, so am I, so we'll have to talk later. So yes, this is a study that probably took us a few months, and I'm sure you're interested in finding out the results. Tonight's presentation is probably going to take me about 20 minutes, and if we could hold the board, if you can hold all questions to the end, I would appreciate that. Just a little bit about our company. We provide demographic services for school districts in the New Jersey metropolitan area since 1998, so about 27 years, 28 years. And about 200 school districts in the metropolitan area we work for. We're the demographic consultant for the New York City Public Schools. We do all their enrollment projections for all 1 million students and all the issues that go along with it. So I'm the executive director. I've had a circuitous road to get to where I'm standing tonight. I started out in civil engineering. My bachelor's is actually in that, but always had a passion to teach. So after about a year in the consulting world for a company called Langen Engineering up in Elmwood Park, I got my master's in science ed from Rutgers. I taught physics and statistics down at Bridgewater Raritan High School in Somerset County and also at Del Barton, the all boys school. And as I was teaching at Bridgewater Raritan, I was going for my PhD, which is up there in educational statistics and measurement. And you're probably wondering, what the heck is that? But most of us wind up working for the College Board, or ETS, in testing-related issues, but I wanted a more applied approach, so my dissertation was on projecting enrollments using multiple regression methods. So here we are today, 27 years later. I still like to present on the topic, still write in journal, peer-reviewed articles, peer-reviewed journals. I testify in court as an expert witness in the state, as a school demographer. There's not many of us. There's less than 100 of us in the country. So if I have any teenagers out there who are budding mathematicians, talk to me later, we could use you. So what's the purpose of the study? The purpose, of course, most people are thinking has to be something about enrollment projections, but I want to let you know that that's just one facet of the study. There's so many other layers that go on to performing a demographic study. And we did, as you can see, the first bullet up there, project for the next 5 years. The Department of Ed will not allow us to go beyond 5 years because then you start to project kids that haven't been born yet, which we do actually do for New York City, but not for smaller communities such as yourself. We also looked at Livingston's population trends, your demographic characteristics, birth counts, things like that, you'll see in a moment. Going to the school level, we looked at your historical enrollments for the last 10 years district-wide, then by grade configuration and by school. We also looked at the historical enrollments of resident students here who do not attend public schools, and they attend non-public schools to see what kind of patterns and trends were there. We determined the historical birth counts for each one of your elementary attendance zones, and I'll explain how we do that. We researched new housing starts and analyzed their impact on the school district. If I had to color any of the bullets up there, and I'd probably put that one in red because I have a feeling that's why we have some people that want to listen to this tonight. Compare the school building capacities to current and projected enrollments. That just means where do we have shortages of seating, where do we have surplus? And lastly, we geocoded, which means taking each student and putting them onto a map at 2 different time points to see what kind of changes happened over time. So let's look at your community first. So Livingston, as you can see, this is not uncommon for communities around this area. You can see peaked around 1970, around 30,000 people, and then started declining, but reverse trend the last 3 decades. So everything to the left where that space is on the right-hand side, that's historical data from the Census Bureau, 1940 to 2020. So you can see in 2020, roughly around 32,000 people, just a little lower than that. And on the far right, where it says 2050, that is the projected population of Livingston from a third-party agency called the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, so about 34,000 people in 2050. So who are you as a community? You're fairly diverse. 60% white, almost 29% Asian, 5% Hispanic in 2020. When we looked at the data from 2010, we're seeing an increasing Asian population and a declining white population. The median age is slightly older than that of New Jersey. Median is the 50th percentile, which means half the people have an age higher than that and 50th lower than that. 30% of the population here is foreign-born, which is higher than the state. The Dominican Republic and China are the largest sources. Incredibly educated community, almost 3/4 of the population has a bachelor's degree or higher. Take a look at the median household income, $218,000, more than double than that of the state. Again, 50% of the households here have an income higher than $218,000. More than 10,000 housing units, 90% are one-unit homes. So think of this as a bedroom community, detached single-family homes or townhouses. Probably a lot of commuters to the city. 12% of the housing units are renter-occupied, much lower than that of the state. And the median value of an owner-occupied unit is about $746,000, which is $250,000 higher than that of the state. So an expensive place to live. High socioeconomics, high education, nothing that you don't know. This is a map where our GIS analysts put together. It's just the community. You can see an overlay with a lot of the streets, all the different schools. But more interesting, we like to take a look at what your attendance boundaries are. Now, a lot of people in the community really don't know for certain sometimes where if they're buying a home, for instance, which school is going to be in which streets of the community. So you can see the 6 attendance boundaries we put together for you in a document called a shape file. So you can see those up there. So we collect the enrollment data for a 10-year period, always from the same date every year, and that's October the 15th. And this past October, your enrollment was 6,370 and a half. The half is a shared time student. And you might wonder, for the people out in the audience, why October 15th? Well, that's the date that your enrollment is reported to the State Department of Ed. It used to be through something called NJ Smart. Now it's NJ Sleds. So now, if we look back 10 years, in 16-17, the enrollment was 5,899. So that's a gain of almost 472 students over the last decade. Basically, if we looked at the trends, the enrollment had been going up through 23-24. There was a slight decline. And we use something called the cohort survival ratio method to project enrollments 5 years out. I'll talk about that in a moment. But here's the picture of what I'm talking about. You can see the enrollments climbing up through 23-24, and in the last couple of years, it's either declined or been stable. But the real story sometimes is this graph right here. This is a picture of elementary, middle, and high. The elementary is pre-K to 5. That's up at the top of the blue line, up the top of the chart. And basically, what we were seeing is that enrollments were fairly stable before declining in 2021. The 2020-21 school year, I should say. And that was related to the pandemic, most likely. Then it started to go up through 23-24 before dropping. The middle school population, 6 to 8, which is the orange line on the bottom, has been pretty much going up for the last decade, gaining 146 students. And the high school, basically, which is the middle one, has been going up through 23-24 before a reversing trend. So the way this works to project enrollments, I'm going to go through this quick so I don't lose anyone falling asleep. So what we do in this profession is we look at your enrollments historically, and we calculate what's called a survival ratio, or sometimes referred to as a grade progression difference. And I give you a very simple example up there so you can follow along. We do this for each of the grade progressions. There's 13 of them. They start from birth to kindergarten, and they go all the way up to 11 to 12. So 13, keep that number in mind. So if you have 100 first graders in the 2024 year, the next year you have only 95. That's a survival rate or a progression rate of 95 over 100 or 0.95. So again, we do that for all 13 grade progressions for the past 10 years. If the ratios are above 1, you are gaining students due to inward migration. If they're below 1, you have outward migration. So in this little fictitious example, when we lost 5 students, that's outward migration. So like I said, we compute these survival ratios for all last 10 historical years. Then we take an average, usually the last 4 or 5 years, and use those ratios to project your future enrollments. Of the 13 ratios, 11 of those average ratios of the 5-year average were above 1. What that means is you have net inward migration coming into this district. I'll talk more about that in a moment. In 2020, which was the first year of the pandemic, you had 5 ratios of the 13 that were the lowest value in the last decade. So we threw a lot of those out because a lot of parents either homeschooled or maybe with hybrid instruction, they just didn't want to send their kids to school. So as I said before, we take these average ratios and we multiply it times the most current enrollment in each grade. And we assume those ratios are going to hold constant for the next 5 years. And that's how you get your projections. When we look at the non-public school enrollment here, you can see that it varies between 370 and I think 401 students over the last 5 years. This is only through 24-25. We didn't have 25-26. What we can see though, when we take this and combine it and add it to the public school enrollment, which is the top row, you have what's called a universe of students here for the last 5 years. Now, that doesn't include kids who are homeschooled or not going to school for whatever reason. But you can see that the public percentage is actually been going up and the non-public percentage has been going down. So really, you do not have an excess by far of any students going to non-public school here. You will see in the report that a lot of the ratios that we saw for students, I think that were a little below 1, I think might have been at the high school level. So for kindergarten replacement, we have something called negative kindergarten replacement here, and it's happened in each of the last 9 years, ranging from 69 to 170 students. Now, what is negative kindergarten replacement? It's simply when the number of entering kindergarten students is less than the number of graduating seniors from the prior year. So let me just give you an example how this works. So let's say you have a graduating class of 500 seniors. If just to keep the whole playing field equal and balanced, you need 500 kindergarten students coming in the next year. So what's been happening here is you're not getting 500, maybe you get 450. So out of the gate, you're down 50 students, but you have a beautiful thing here that's actually happening that's counterbalancing in that, and that's called inward migration. So here's the historical negative kindergarten values over time. You can see some of them times like 150, 170 students. But when we take this graph and we pair it to your enrollment change, which is in the orange there, the orange is the enrollment change over time for the last 10 years. So you have enough inward migration in this district to overcome all this negative kindergarten replacement. So why the inward migration? It's very simple. Excellent school districts have tremendous inward migration, and the word's on the street that people want to come here and have their children educated here. And that's a testament of what you're seeing right there. So we use BERTs to project kindergarten students 5 years later. We looked at BERT data from 2011 to 2023. Basically, the number of BERTs have ranged between 190 to 260. There really hasn't been an apparent, clearly defined trend. So you look at the endpoints, you had 215 BERTs in 23, and 235 BERTs in 2011, so it's only a difference of 20. So there's the BERTs over time. So you're not really gaining students because of BERTs. That's not really the issue here. But this is really this is another thing, if you really want to see how great your district is, take a look at the far right column. So what you're seeing here is the number of BERTs in a particular year, how many kindergarten kids come 5 years later, and what that ratio is. So remember we talked about the ratios that are above 1 indicate inward migration. Well, this is the BERT decay ratio for the last decade, and they're well above 1, sometimes approaching 2, as you can see in 2013, which would be the 2018 school year. So you're almost getting sometimes 180 children from other communities. They were born in other communities, and then by the time the ages of 0 to 5, they're moving in, and they're attending kindergarten 5 years later. I had one district I'm working with, or worked with just recently, with a B to K ratio of 3. That's Scarsdale over in New York. So, these really good districts, that's what happens. So BERTs by attendance area, what we were able to do is get BERTs by census block from the New Jersey Department of Health. And our GS analyst took those BERTs by census block, which are really tiny, small geographic areas, and encapsulated them inside your attendance boundaries to see how many BERTs were occurring in the 6 zones. You can see unknown on the far right. That's just a mother who had a child born. She's from Livingston, but they couldn't identify her address, so we couldn't identify which zone. But you can see the Collins areas had the most number of BERTs over this time period, 701, the Mount Pleasant the fewest. But when we look at the difference over that time period, you can see between the endpoint years really hasn't changed that much in any of the zones. So when we look at those BERTs by block, which I just mentioned a moment ago, this is in 2011, the darkest colored blues where the most number of BERTs are occurring. And I'm going to go to 2023 so you can see what this is going to like a time lapse. And you can see how it kind of shifts around. And I'll toggle back and forth so you can kind of see that. And then if you look at the total number of BERTs over that 12 or 13-year period, the dark blue is where the greatest number of BERTs are. The lighter shades of blue less. So if you ever get into demography, this is demography 101. It's called an age-sex diagram. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So the blue side is males and the right side is females. And what you're seeing here is the percentage of males and females at each of the different age classes, 0 to 4, all the way up to 85 and up. Now, what we see in really affluent communities are what I call the missing piece of the apple. If you kind of picture that thing rounded out in the 20s and 30s, it would kind of look sort of like a shape of a piece of fruit. But what's happened is there's missing pieces in the 20s and 30s for the population because it's very difficult to live here in terms of expensive housing. What we saw back in 2010, the biggest groups was the 45 to 49 group, for 45 to 49 for both males and females. If we fast forward to 2020, the biggest group for males was the 10 to 14 population, and for females, it remained the 45 to 49. But again, still seeing that missing 25 to 35 range. And when we compare that time period, what happened? Who were the biggest gainers and who were the biggest decliners? Now, don't get too excited. That blue area, which is the biggest gainer, is the 20 to 24 population. I highly doubt it's a lot of 20-year-olds buying up real estate here. I got a couple 20-year-olds myself. They're not in my basement, but I kicked them out. So it could be people moving back home from colleges cannot afford some of the crazy apartment rental prices that we have in our country right now. So that's what I believe is happening right there. For decliners, it's the 0 to 4 populations, the largest for males, and 35 to 39 for females. Now let's talk about new housing. Okay, this is an interesting thing. It all has to do a lot. You probably know all about the settlement agreement with the New Jersey Fair Share Housing Center, which are COA. Some people call them COA units, affordable housing units. But we did a study for you 4 years ago. Very few of the housing developments that we looked at 4 years ago have been completed. There are 1,062 housing units on the docket that are approved. They're all apartments or townhouses, all multi-family units. Remember I told you in the outset, you have about 90% of your homes are single family? Well, that's going to change the dynamic here because that's not what you really have here right now. Half of the units are going to be in Riker Hill. So already that kind of jumps out as being somewhat problematic. The largest project is something called Cannerly Place with 300 apartments. That's currently in the process of leasing. Out of all those units, we're projecting 177 public school children. I know what's going to happen in your mind. You're saying, how in the world is that such a small number, giving 1,000 plus units? It's the bedroom distributions. The bedroom distributions for a lot of developments, which we're going to show you in a moment, are mostly 1s and 2-bedroom units, which do not generate anywhere near the number of children as a detached single-family home. I'll talk more about that in a second. So here's a map that our analysts put together, our GIS analyst, all those developments located throughout the township. Again, most of the three of them up in the Riker Hill area. So what we have here are some potential future residential developments that we did not include in the report. The 1,000 plus units is too big of a table to throw on the PowerPoint tonight. So I just had that picture showing on the map a minute ago. There is the potential for another 426 units on top of that 1,000 that I just mentioned. The reason they're not included in terms of figuring out how many kids in the projections is because they have to adopt some zoning and do some rezoning in part of these areas right now. One's the former Lexus dealership, and the other is the Sears Mall. And that's something called overlay zoning. It's somewhat of a complicated process. This is where it's approved to happen, but there's no developers in place to build right now. It could be years before this shovel even hits the ground because there's no site plan even brought to the planning board. But I throw it out there with some estimations of how many kids it could be, 78 on the far right, with the anticipation that beyond 5 years, in my opinion, that's another 426 units that could hit the district. Historically, we looked at the residential construction by attendance boundary. So we took all the addresses that have been built in the last 6 years, and we pinned them on a map again, and you can see that Bernard Hill wins the prize with 376 units of the 619. And that included 2 large developments, one called Livingston Square, which was 221 townhouses, and something called Highgate at Livingston, 169 units. Of those 619 units, however, 295, there were also 295 demolitions in the township, knockdowns. So in the net, you're probably looking at somewhere like 325 housing units in the last 6 years if you take out the demolitions. And here's all the developments plotted over time. The ones that are squares, you probably can't see them from where you're seated. Maybe if you're up close, they are. Those are multifamily units with 5 or more units to a property, but you can see how they're clustered around the center of the township. In home sales, this is looking at it for the last 30 years. What I would just say is that this is typical for New Jersey, a lot of communities. You can see how the sales peak somewhere around 2000 or 2001. They declined during the housing market crash and banking crisis around 2008. And 2009 and 10, they're very, very low, right around 300 to 325 sales. Then they went straight up and peaked during the pandemic around 754 sales. You can see the decline in the last couple of years. That's the higher interest rates for mortgages. Who wants to sell their house when you have a 3.5% mortgage? I know I wouldn't. And there's just not enough people putting houses up for sale, and there's very low inventory. So our analysts took all those sales from the last 6 years only and plotted them, and you can see, again, the darkest colors where the most sales are. Let's talk about the projections. So again, a 5-year period. We did 2 sets of projections. One we refer to as baseline. That's assuming, like the last report, if they don't get built for whatever reason in this 5-year period, it doesn't mean they won't get built ever. It just means they might not get, they get pushed down the line. What would the enrollment projections look like in the school district? The adjusted for housing growth, consider that a worst case scenario. What if all the housing developments I showed you tonight get built? Regardless of which method we're talking about, enrollments are projected to increase throughout the projection period. The baseline projections, we're talking a little over 6,500, the adjusted 6,566. And so we're talking a gain of around 139 and almost 196 if you want to round up in those 2 projections. The real issue here, when we look at the enrollment projections by grade configuration, I broke it down baseline and adjusted for all of them. You can see the bottom line there shows you the change over the 5-year period. The one I have highlighted in blue is the high school to show you why and where most of the gain is occurring. And it's because you have larger cohorts that are moving through the system up into the high school. This is kind of a graph which shows us the capacity of each building. And I say capacity very loosely because it's not a fire code capacity. The capacity of a school building changes depending upon how you use the building. So if you take a general ed classroom and all of a sudden change it to a special ed classroom, which can only accommodate 8 children instead of 25, the capacity of the building changes. So this is based on your long-range facility plan capacities. I've compared it to the current enrollment of each building in the 3rd column. Took the difference to show you red if you have a shortage of seating, which we refer to in the business as unhoused students. It doesn't mean anybody's out in the hallway, but that's what we call it. And blue is a surplus seating. But you can see you have some issues here. Everything almost up on that wall, on that chart is red, which is indicating shortage of seating. The one that's really striking, is the high school. Right now, a shortage of about 374 seats and projected to grow to over 541. The only school that's projected to have any kind of surplus really is Mount Pleasant Elementary School in the next 5 years. Lastly, we created maps at these two different time points I set out in the beginning. Well, we're going to show you what that looks like real quick, and then we're going to wrap it up. So these are your students currently in the 25-26 year. Every dot is a student. And we're going to aggregate all those students by census block. So in 1920, the darkest colored magenta, if you want to call that, from back here, is where the greatest number of students are. We fast forward to 25-26. When we aggregate, it's pretty much the same area. The density of students, see, census blocks are different sizes. So how do you standardize it if census blocks are different in size? Well, you divide it by the block's area, which would be students per square mile. So the darkest green that you see up there is where the greatest density of students are. And that's in 1920. If you go to 25-26, it's pretty much the same, not too different, a little bit more darker greens out in the southwest part of Livingston. And the final one we looked at is what's called student yield. The student yield is the number of children per housing unit. And this is the number of children per housing unit in 1920. Dark purple would be the greatest student yields, and we fast forward to 25-26, and it really hasn't changed too much, a little bit. So let's summarize this for tonight. Enrollments are projected to steadily increase throughout the 5-year period. There's 1,062 units projected to come online, which would result in a projected gain of 195.5 students in the adjusted projections. The gain is really due to inward migration, as 11 of those 13 grade progressions are showing an influx of children from one year to the next. The gain is not projected to be uniform across the 3 grade configurations. The largest gain is projected in high school grades as those larger existing cohorts move into the upper grades. At the elementary and middle school levels, as you saw from that table a few moments ago, really not projected to change significantly. So with that, I will turn it over to the board if they would like to ask some questions.
Thank you. Questions?
So one of my questions is about the method you used for your projections for the new housing developments. It seems that one of the things that we found about some of the newer housing in town is that the number of students projected to come from those new developments were actually greater than what we anticipated. So what's the way to measure, given how you measured here, what the projections would accurately be once those units are online and either leasing or people are purchasing, when we've seen what the numbers look like before?
It's a great question. So the multipliers that we use per housing unit comes from the State University. It's called the Center for Urban Policy Research out of Rutgers. Those are averages of statewide multipliers. You didn't really have what I would refer as a robust sampling size yet to do a lot of this. If you were to talk to me a few years from now and say, you know, can you re-update this study, what would you do? Well, we have another option we provide our clients that was not option for you here, where we would take the property database and join it to the student address database so we could actually see what the yields are for each development in the community, as well as a single family home distribution as well. Yeah, that would be the next step down the road.
And just related to that, it seems that a lot of the single family housing and those pieces of property are sometimes subdivided. And is there any accounting for any of those subdivided single family homes in your calculations here?
Yeah, the answer is that for not. We have a disclaimer that we talk about that. We don't look at subdivisions and knockdowns and that kind of thing. yeah, it doesn't really add as much to the total student population that you'd be worried about as opposed to those apartment units, which are going to be a lot more. Yeah.
Okay. About inward migration. So it looks like our trend is that in grades 1 and we see more of an inward migration. So how do the birth rates factor into what your calculations are when you do the projections, if our inward migration is showing different trends from the birth rates that you use?
Well, can we go back to the presentation? I want to put a slide back up. So the births are tied to the kindergarten enrollments. There was a table showing that. What we make the assumption, and this is the hard assumption, is, let me get to it first before I speak out of turn. We look at the birth decay ratios in each one of the particular elementary schools. This is the district-wide of what you're looking at. And we're assuming that this, what I refer to as maybe like a 55 to 60% increase of students from kindergarten from births to kindergartens can continue into the future. So when you look at the births in the far left there, you can see when you go across, there's a lot of NAs. So we can assume if we tack on another 55 to 60% onto those values, that's what your kindergarten counts are going to look like into the future. That's how we kept the kindergarten counts. With respect to all the other grades, their inward migration is nowhere near as significant as this. It could be anywhere from 2 to 3% instead of a 50%. And we use those ratios specific to those grade progressions on those particular grade levels.
So you referenced that we didn't have enough data here in Livingston in order to create a specific Livingston kind of factor for the number of students that might come from the housing developments. I'm wondering, there are like communities, there are like high-performing school districts, affluent communities. Was there an opportunity to use their data rather than a state-level average, which more than likely we would outperform?
So, contractually, we have scope that we stay within. So we did not put that into the scope. If that was something that the board would like us to look at, we certainly could do something like that. But no, we did not look at something like that. And to be honest with you, we've never really done that. And the reason I say that is, yes, there could be some communities like yours, but I find differences between every single community.
And I respect that, but when we're utilizing a state level average, we're effectively utilizing every other community in the state, right?
Yeah.
So to look at a potentially like community wouldn't be different from what we're doing already. So I do think there, I'm looking down this way, I do think there is value in considering a potential update to the analysis, looking at a higher performing community, because I am concerned with looking at the average of the state. We are not, and this is not an arrogant thing about Livingston, but we're not at the average. There is a high desire to live here. So my next question is on, you mentioned having done a study for us 4 years ago. Were you able to look at that study in comparison to this one to see how those projections played out? Obviously, the pandemic played a significant role in what happened with those projections. But what I would be interested in is, there were new developments at the time, and looking at what we projected there versus what we got as a means by which to create some degree of ratio for what we might see in future new developments.
So again, this is a snapshot of the report. If you have the full report, there is a complete section showing the actual enrollments compared to our projections in the last study with all the error rates and the differences. Typically, I just made some notes in case that question did come up. We underestimated in each of those 4 years. The gains were a little greater than we anticipated in the first 2 years. However, due to the decline of the enrollments here in the last 2 years, we were much closer to the enrollments from our projected study. So that is all in the report.
Okay, so I apologize.
That's all right.
I did read it. I just,
There's a lot of stuff in there. It's probably like 80 pages.
I was up all night celebrating something.
You're watching the game, maybe?
Yes, just a little. Okay, and then I'll turn it over to the others. But
So coming back to the question of 1 and 2 bedrooms, how they're projected using that study, I think last time also we decided that there was a factor that we could potentially just tack on to that X value that you're projecting, seeing what we had already got from our developments that came online. And I'm wondering if that was taken into consideration at all.
No, I did not have that data for that. I'm gonna warn you with some of the state data though. So the values that we've had in that Rutgers study are actually much higher than what's happening in reality right now. So I know, to your point, sir, I know that it's certainly possible it's gonna be higher, particularly for the affordable units. But what we're finding across the state is those Rutgers numbers are actually running high. And it's not the only place that we've seen it. So it could even be lower than what you're saying.
So definitely did not experience that. Definitely not in our housing units. We absolutely did not see that. And we also don't see the phenomenon that in a 2-bedroom, we don't get students.
Oh, I'm not saying that. So the yield for a 2-bedroom typically is 0.407 children per housing unit for a affordable unit and 0.334 roughly for a market rate. A 1-bedroom is usually about 1/10 of a child, like 0.107. So the 1-bedrooms and studios, we're not seeing much of anything. I'm not saying there's no children in 2 bedrooms. It's just when we look at it for a detached single-family home, which runs roughly around 0.95 children per home, it's more, that's almost double what I just mentioned for a 2-bedroom. A 3-bedroom usually runs around 0.65 for a market rate and around 0.81 for an affordable.
Do you have any information for like a community like this where single-family home prices have significantly increased? Do those communities in the 1 and 2 bedrooms have or see more children come through the 1 and 2 bedrooms? Like, have you seen that around the state? What's going on?
I'd have to go back and look at the data. That's a very pointed question. We work with all kinds of socioeconomics. I'd have to go back and see who kind of mirrors your community.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Can I ask, the page 30, the potential future development, is that data you used the word, there's a baseline data. Is that the number as the baseline?
Adjusted would be that with all the housing, the 1,000 housing units you're referring to?
The Sears,
Oh, so
the
that's,
potential, there's
oh,
uncounted.
the one with the zoning changes to happen? So that's not included at all because we have no idea when that will even get submitted to the planning board. Our policy is pretty much to look at things that are approved and under construction. This is a possibility that will happen in the future, but when, we have no idea. So that's not included in terms of the total enrollment counts.
Yes, I understand it's not included. I'm just saying the number is calculated. Is that the way you describe as use the baseline calculation? Or so how's the 78 numbers? How is that calculated?
Those are based upon the student yields from Rutgers that I was just mentioning. That's not baseline or adjusted. That's just the number of students from those developments. Baseline is referring to the enrollment projections, not the number of students from a development or adjusted. We're mixing two different things.
Another question is, in this report, do you have anywhere to project the same family? They move in, let's say last year, they only have 1 children. But in the next 5 or 6 years, they might have multiple children. So regardless, it's 1 bedroom or 1 single unit attached, they might have more students coming out. Is there any way to do the projection on there based on the previous, either by age group or socioeconomic or that? Have you have any elements can make the prediction included in that?
No, and part of it's because I think if I understand your question correctly, part of it's also, are we going to assume people that are in a particular house are going to have more kids in the future? And obviously, I don't have that knowledge. People are going to have kids or not. That's a crystal ball kind of thing. So no, and we don't get down to the individual household level. That's just not something we do in our field. This is more of an aggregate, looking at all the different, so when we look at those, remember I talked about those survival ratio patterns? I didn't talk about the reasons for why that could be. It could be people are moving here for the schools. People are moving here because they want to be near family members. People are moving here because there's affordable housing or not affordable housing. So all these different reasons cause people either to move in or move out, and they're just reflected in the net in those ratios. But we can't tease them out, nor can I look at individual things that are happening in a particular community or a particular family's household when they move in.
Done? Okay. All right, so in the interest of student time, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the dialogue. I always appreciate a very interesting conversation with the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, in the interest of our little attendants here who also have to go to school tomorrow and go to bed, we are actually going to move public comments up. This will be our only public comment section, so any agenda, non-agenda items are going to be addressed here. Do I have a motion to move public comments?
So moved.
All right, and with that, we are in our public comment section. The guidelines for that are on the podium. So any public comments in the room?
Hi, my name is Kelly Connell, Livingston resident and a parent to a Mount Pleasant middle schooler. Thank you to the board and the administrative teams for all that you do for our schools. I'm commenting tonight as I'd like to ensure awareness regarding Mount Pleasant Middle School's recent transition away from allowing drawstring backpack-style bags to transport school essentials between classes, with the reported goal of preparing them for heritage school expectations to intentionally help develop essential organizational and executive functioning skills, along with hallway and classroom safety. Principal O'Leary indicated that a K-sit could be used in lieu of a drawstring bag. Different teachers, of course, have different requirements for their classes, but here is what my kid is required to carry Tuesday mornings, which weighs 10.4 pounds, more than 10% of his body weight. The K-sit doesn't fit all the items, and he's kind of on the larger side for kids. There's kids who are smaller than him that are carrying roughly the same, more or less. It doesn't fit all in the K-sit, which also requires the use of his hands and arms traversing the hallways and stairs. My biggest concern is with this, with children's safety. With items and arms and a K-sit that has a single handle and a single strap, it can be lopsided. The weight is not well distributed. That can cause, it doesn't allow for the best stability, in my honest opinion. It doesn't allow for, if you have things in your hands, for clear sight of your feet, the steps on the stairs. And it also inhibits the use of handrails when your hands are preoccupied. I've had a few parents share that their kid has tripped and fallen, which I've encouraged to be reported to the school. I've emailed Principals O'Leary and Kelly to express my concern. Principal Kelly indicated that heritage students haven't used bags the entire school year, and that to date of correspondence, nobody has had any issues navigating the halls or stairwells. While I was relieved, you can go sit down. While I was relieved, of course, to hear that, my concerns for sixth graders remain. This, along with other concerns, motivated me and my kid to create a petition, which over 240 students and families signed, with some adding some comments. I emailed the petition to Principal O'Leary, and she graciously agreed to look further into this matter. If not using backpacks is a solid expectation going forward, I'd like to recommend, one, that if there's specific studies that support how this helps organization and executive functioning of middle schoolers, that it please be shared with the middle school communities. If there are, number two, specific safety reasons why K-sits are preferred over backpacks, and especially if those reasons outweigh the reasons that I've shared of my concerns of their safety, that also be shared with the communities. And I'd also like that this policy be reviewed by a pediatric orthopedist or another specialist to ensure that it's okay for developing bodies. We additionally have some courageous sixth graders who would like to share their perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Before the kids go, I just want to make one quick observation that you all might have picked up on. Brennan was holding that, I think it was a 3-minute clock. He sat down, I think, at around 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
Could you please state your name?
Sorry, Erin
And
Miner.
town.
Livingston. And I believe they have 3 minutes between classes. So you saw him struggling to hold it standing still for 2 minutes and 10 seconds. He had to go sit down. But he has to walk the hallways of MPM for that same period of time. It's 3 minutes between classes, carrying all that stuff. And you saw him struggling just standing. So just one brief observation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ariel Velez. I am a Livingston resident, and I go to Mount Pleasant Middle School. Congratulations, Mr. Stern. And today I'm going to be discussing some issues with not being able to use string bags when carrying our school books and supplies. The first point I have to make is that everyone in our school transitions from one class to another, where you have to go up or down 2 flights of stairs. This creates a problem for students because they may not be able to hold on to the handrails. Without being able to use the handrails, students could lose their balance and fall, not only dropping all their school materials they are carrying, but may also get hurt themselves. Another way this impacts students is that when you have everyone around you rushing to get to class, they may drop something, bend over to pick it up, causing the student behind them to trip over and also get hurt. Even if you are walking to a class on the same floor, if you are carrying too many supplies, you could still drop them and may leave something behind in the rush to get to class in the 3 minutes allowed. When the school allowed string bags, I had an easier time carrying my items, but I still got hurt rushing to class, spraining my wrist and ankle. Now I have a harder time transitioning from one class to another without the string bags, and I have more risk of spraining my wrist and ankle, or worse, breaking something. Now I will turn the mic over to my classmate Adele, who will share another reason why we need the string bags. Thank you. Good night, and my name is Adele Shankman, and I'm a Livingston resident, and I'm a student at MPM. I'm here to talk about my problems with the no backpack policy. My biggest concern is safety. In the past 3 weeks, I've seen several students fall on the stairs. Even though no one has been badly hurt, these falls could lead to serious injuries like broken bones and concussions. Backpacks help spread weight evenly and make it easier for students to carry their books and supplies. Without backpacks, students will have to hold heavy items in their hands, which makes it harder to walk safely. The policy also makes it difficult to carry important things like water bottles. Staying hydrated helps students stay focused and healthy during the school day. Furthermore, items like papers, books, and computers keep falling on the floor, especially in the hallways, causing people to trip and fall on others. This can result in a chain effect and hurt multiple people. I believe backpacks help keep students safe and comfortable, and I hope the school will reconsider this policy. Thank you for allowing me to speak here today.
My name is Julia Bronner. I live in Livingston, New Jersey, and I'm an MPM 6th grader. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. I am concerned about the new no bag policy at MPM. While this policy might be good for some, it also brings added stress and anxiety to our already stressful school lives. For me, I get added stress between classes because I'm trying to figure out how to organize all the needed materials for the day, and not drop any. Eventually, when I take time to try to figure out how to organize and not drop anything between going from class to class, I get late. Those lates add up, and I can get detention. Whether it's lunch detention or after school detention, it takes away from social learning and socializing. Also, carrying around heavy materials for the school day hurts. It's very hard. This causes a big safety threat. I believe string bags should be allowed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julian Miner. I live in Livingston and I'm a student at Mount Pleasant Middle School. I'm here because I'm concerned about the new no backpack rule at my school. This rule has been very hard for me and many other students. Some of my friends have already spoken to you about the physical health problems caused by this policy, like having to carry too many heavy items at once. I would like to share my thoughts about the mental health concerns connected to not being allowed to use backpacks. Our school puts a lot of effort into teaching us about healthy habits, which I really appreciate. We also learn about mental health and how it is important to manage stress and anxiety. I am grateful that the school cares about these topics. That is why it is confusing and concerning to many students that there's a physical and mental health problem when it comes to the no backpack policy. First, I can't fit everything I need for my classes into the K-Sit. I have a lot of books, folders, and supplies, and it is hard to stay organized without a backpack. In addition, a backpack fits better in my locker than a K-Sit, and as a result, kids are shoving their supplies into the locker or using force to make it fit. Second, like many kids my age, I don't always get things right the first time. Sometimes I forget things or need to move items between classes. Not having a backpack makes this much harder and increases my stress and anxiety. Also in class, most of my supplies have to go on the floor because they don't fit in my desk. I worry about stepping on my things or knocking them over. If I hang the K-Sit on my chair, it can tip over because it only has one strap. This can be distracting and embarrassing. I also want to respectfully advocate for the neurodivergent and disabled students who are allowed to use backpacks as an accommodation. If they are the only students with backpacks, it can make them feel different or singled out, which may make school more difficult for them, not easier. Middle school is already challenging, and not being able to use a backpack adds to that stress. I respectfully ask the board and the school to please consider bringing back backpacks, which are an important and helpful part of the shared middle school experience. Thank you very much for your time and considering my thoughts.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brennan Connell. I live in Livingston and I'm currently a student at Mount Pleasant Middle School. I would like to share my experiences and concerns since my school has changed the bag policy after winter break. My shoulder hurts due to the weight of a single strap K-Sit, and I find it awkward and unbalanced. Even with this permitted case, I can't fit my binders, so I need to hold things in my hands. Due to my class schedule, I'm using the stairs at least 11 times a day. Since this new policy started, I've seen many people trip on stairs at least once a day. In one instance, an MPM staff member was also using the stairs and stopped the flow of students to allow a person who tripped to gather their belongings, though oftentimes I don't see teachers or staff in the stairwell. I worry I may trip while using the stairs, and as I am supporting the allowed case with one hand while holding my binders in the other, making it more challenging than if I were able to put my items in a backpack, I see multiple students drop their school items, including Chromebooks, daily. I'm forgetting binders in classes as I'm putting them in my desk and my K-Sit on the floor. I want to be on time, prepared, and organized for my classes, though I'm finding it more difficult to do so. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, that was a tough act to follow. Melissa DeAngelis, Livingston Education Association president. On behalf of the Livingston Education Association, I would like to extend our congratulations on your appointment to Superintendent of Schools, Mark Stern. We believe this hire is a strong and positive fit for both our community and our school district. We look forward to working collaboratively with you to support our students, staff, families, and we wish you great success as you begin important work. We are counting on your honesty and integrity, and we already have witnessed your dedication throughout the years. Congratulations, Mark.
Anybody online? Seeing no one.
Hi, my name's Michelle Auerbach. I'm a resident of Livingston, New Jersey. I was going to come in person, but honestly, I was a little nervous because I'm currently dealing with some other issues and didn't want to be there. But hearing all those kids say their piece, I wanted to say mine as well. I have a 7th grader right now at Heritage Middle School, and the notion that no one at Heritage has been injured by the lack of backpacks is wrong. My own daughter fell down the stairs, and one of her friends early on in the year tripped over some kids, and her whole legs were bruised up. And that picture I know was sent to Mr. Kelly. So I know that it has been documented that kids have been injured from not getting to use their backpacks at school. And something I also stated to Dr. Fishbein at one point was that these kids, these girls in particular, are going through changes right now in their lives. And they may need to be able to carry things that don't fit in their arms or they don't want out in the open in their arms. And that they don't have a place to keep an extra pair of pants in case something happens is really wrong. The general idea that they can't carry a bag is wrong. And his reasons keep changing. At first, he said it was for executive function. And then he said it was that because of the change in policy, they're no longer having physical altercations in the hallway. If that was the reason, that should have been stated right up front and not waited until everyone came out against the executive function reason. The reasoning is flawed. People can use elbows and shoulders. They don't need their hands. The kids need their backpacks to be safe in the hallways, especially with the amount of students in that building and needing to go up and down the stairs as many times as the brave kids in front of you have said they have to do. It's just not right. So I wanted to say my piece since those students were so brave and said theirs.
Thank you. Any more hands online? Seeing none. We are going to be closing public comment. Going back to our superintendent report, the LHS report on graduates and assessment report.
I'm going to invite Sinead, Nicole, and Natalie up to go over the Livingston High School report on graduates and assessments.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone. I know it's a packed night tonight, so thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Congratulations to Mark, to those students for being so brave and coming up here. Seth, I'll give you a shout out for last night too. Congrats. We don't hold any biases here. We're talking college tonight, but I'll give you a shout out. College football champs. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. We're that proud. So we're You totally should. So we're jumping on in. We get to celebrate our class of 2025 right now. You all know we are going to be highlighting college admissions data from last year. We're going to be sharing some highlights, some updated information for our class of 2026 that we have at hand we can share with you as well. And Natalie is joining us, and we'll be talking about our SAT and ACT data also. And am I clicking slides? Great, perfect. Oh, and I know this comes up often, so families that are still with us, community members, please know that this is online. We have links throughout the presentation for data, for resources. So our presentation will be posted on the Livingston website following tonight. So you'll have access to it. You'll be able to click through all of our links to be able to access our presentation as well. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. So you'll see our mission here, which still remains constant. As we've shared, starting in middle school, students begin to really tap into those interests and start to explore their future ambitions. And we continue to engage and emphasize with students and families the importance of discovering their right fit through this whole process. And the school counseling department, the child study team, the transition coordinator, we all continue to work together collaboratively to ensure that our work with students and families remains individualized. We continue to use data and gather feedback from students and families at multiple touch points throughout the process to reflect upon and improve our practices as we go. Okay, and here we can see some highlights that I'm really excited to share. Last year, one of our goals that we had talked about was updating our websites, which we have done. It really wouldn't be great to come here and tell you that we didn't. So we've updated both our school counseling website as well as our college counseling websites, which we will continue to audit, continue to update as we go, really in an ongoing basis. Our goal here is really to ensure that our work and our resources reflect online what it is that we're doing, that families, that students, parents really can access this information when they need, and that they have this information at hand to explore transition, to explore post-secondary information when they need to, when they're ready to do so. We have added ACT and SAT data back onto the LHS school profile. This had been removed during the pandemic, when the majority of colleges that our students were applying to had gone test optional, and in the several years that followed, as colleges really were still navigating those testing policies. And looking ahead, really to the spring, we're really excited. We're adding 2 new events to our spring catalog. So in February, Tina Renga has partnered with and bringing in an expert into the field, Mr. John Durant. He is going to be giving insights about the college admissions process and sharing really insider information from the over 250 college interviews that he's done with college admissions representatives. John is pretty well known in college counseling circles, so we're excited to have him here at Livingston High School. And in May, we're going to be hosting a consortium event where students and families, they're going to be getting information from the participating universities about the application process, financial aid. Students will be able to have conversations directly with those colleges in attendance, which you can see on the screen as well. But in attendance coming to Livingston are going to be Emory, Cornell, Pomona, Rice University, and the University of Washington in St. Louis. And that wouldn't be all. We continue to celebrate all of the post-secondary pathways for all of our students. This is something really important for us in the department. And one of those focuses really is on trade and vocational opportunities. So something that we had highlighted last year that we'll continue to do this year, Adam Berrien, one of our counselors, will continue the New Jersey Construction Industry Day program and field trip. And we're also partnering with the Universal Technical Institute
to either do a field trip and or bring them into the high school. And we're hoping and looking into doing more opportunities for either trips or visits into the high school to really cater to all of our students and their interests. Additionally, we continue to invite military representatives from all branches into LHS throughout the year, as well as for formal visits with them. And all of these post-secondary opportunities are invited to our spring college and career fair each year as well. And next, we'll really be jumping into our data.
Hi, everyone. We continue to see consistency in our 4-year, 2-year, and employment, gap year, military, trade school rates. Where we saw increases in this year's class was the number of applications and number of individual colleges applied to. This can partially be attributed to the larger number of graduates in the class of 2025. In examining data for applications and acceptances, a notable difference in the class of 2025 was this was the largest class we've had in the past 5 years. The class of 2025 had the most applications and number of individual colleges applied to, while applying to more states since 2022. We continue to see a rise in the number of acceptances the class of 2025 received. We have increased from last year in the number of colleges our students were accepted to. However, we noticed that we had the lowest number of individual states represented among these colleges. We believe this is due to an overwhelming increase in the number of colleges our students applied to in New York State, as compared to other states. We will continue to examine the trend of states our students are applying to see if something becomes a pattern. Here, you can see the matriculation data from the class of 2025. We saw an increase in the number of colleges our students are attending, which is more consistent with our highest number of colleges back in 2023. What we can glean from this data is that our students are attending a wide variety of colleges that are spread out throughout the country. However, we are noticing that they are going to various pockets of the US, which we believe is why our number of states has stayed consistent but decreased over the past 4 years. We see increases in the number of students attending college in New York State, but we are noticing our students stick to a few main areas: the East Coast, Northeast, the Southeast, the Great Lakes, Upper Midwest, and mostly east of the Mississippi River, with less of a presence in the far west and mountain states. We remain consistent in our percentage of students over the past 5 years in attending 4-year, 2-year, and pursuing other opportunities. In analyzing the past 5 years' worth of data, we remain consistent with our post-secondary outcomes for our students with IEPs across the various pathways. What this data does not specifically show is the right fit that each student pursued, including students who enrolled in programs that offer intervention and support services. The work of the transition coordinator and the child study team has been substantial in expanding post-secondary opportunities for all students in pursuit of their academic and career goals. With our early decision applications, we again remain consistent in the number of students who applied either early decision 1 or 2. We saw increases in the percentage of students accepted overall in early decision, both rounds 1 and 2, and an increase in the number of students accepted through ED1 specifically. As we have shared, while ED1 and ED2 may be a good option for some students, it may not be the right option for all students. It is not an option at all schools, and financially, it may not be the most appropriate family decision. Some students are also just not ready to make that ED commitment, even if the school offers an early decision. When signing the ED agreement during the application process, students and families are legally agreeing to enroll at that institution and pay the cost. Students still have the option and the ability to apply for need-based financial aid. However, the deposit is likely due before receiving that financial aid award, and therefore families should be prepared to pay the advertised cost. We saw an increase in the number of early action applications while seeing a decrease in the number of regular decision applications. We mentioned last year in the report on graduates in the class of 2025 snapshot that we are seeing an increase in the number of early action applications, which has been proven to be true.
This can be attributed to popular Livingston colleges, such as the University of Texas at Austin and the University of Florida, changing their application deadlines and having an early action deadline for the first time. What we also notice is that our average number of applications increased by 1 from the class of 2024 to the class of 2025. This still falls within our recommended range of number of colleges students should apply to, which is 8 to 12. As we have done in the past as well, here you can explore more detailed information about the institutions that our students applied to, were accepted to, and ultimately chose to attend in the class of 2025 based on U.S. News & World Report rankings and the Wall Street Journal. We have added the U.S. News & World Report Top 25 Regional Universities North and Wall Street Journal Best Colleges rankings here in place of the RUGS recommendations. In reviewing these rankings, what can be interesting to note is how different these rankings can compare. Some colleges included in the Regional Universities North include the College of New Jersey, Rhode Island School of Design, Emerson College, and Marist University. Some schools included in the Wall Street Journal Best College rankings are Babson College, Loyola Maryland University, and Davidson College. We advise families to use these rankings with caution and be informed of what factors are used, as they influence how a school ranks on different lists. These can be informative and helpful, but they can also limit our work in helping us find the right fit for the student when there is such a focus on where the college ranks. We want to help students find the college or program they are going to be the most successful in, and that may not always be a college that is ranked highly on these lists. Here is the early information regarding the class of 2026 application data. We have an increase in the number of early decision applications, primarily because the University of Michigan introduced early decision this year. Furthermore, we are noticing an increase again in the number of early action applications. As mentioned last year, the University of Florida and the University of Texas at Austin did move to an early action deadline, and it continues to be appealing for our students. In addition, the University of Arizona elected to have an early action deadline instead of being rolling admissions this year, which is also why we see an increase in early action applications and a slight decrease in rolling applications.
Okay, we're gonna switch gears a little bit to take a look at the test data from common assessments that students take prior to college. We're gonna take a look at the AP test data, the SAT, and the ACT. So if you take a look at this chart, you'll see a 5-year summary of the AP exam data, and what you'll note is that the number of exams being taken, the number of students sitting for exams, and the percentage of total AP students with scores above a 3 have all increased. And as you take a look at the next slide, this one highlights the variety of ways that AP, the College Board, celebrate the various accomplishments of students who are taking the test, their exemplary performance. These recognitions all center on scores above a 3 and the number or types of AP tests that students are taking. As we switch to taking a look at the SAT, looking at the SAT 5-year summary on this slide, you can see the LHS scores in green, the New Jersey scores in blue, and the national in white in both reading and writing as well as in math. And you can see here that the number of students taking the test have increased, and the total score and the scores in both the reading and writing and the math have taken a little dip. When you take a look at those within the span of the last 5 years, it feels like they have found the trend that they were on in comparison to the uptick that happened in 24. When you take a look at the ACT, on this next slide, this 5-year summary of scores is indicating an increase in the number of students who are taking the test. Thank you so much. as well as slight increases in the content areas as well. So the English, math, and reading are on this slide, and the science and the composite score are on the next. Okay, I think I'm handing it off.
Oops. So now, fast forwarding a little bit, you'll see here some of our highlights really in hearing from our alumni. In general, reviewing our alumni survey, our responses from students were very positive in reflecting back on the level of support received, the access to programs and initiatives offered to them and that they took advantage of. Students who had applied to a large number of schools, which we make the cutoff 15 on our survey to students. The students reported to us that they felt that they needed to apply to more than 15 colleges or universities because of the selectivity, the highly competitive nature, highly rejective nature of those schools that they were applying to. Of those same students, interestingly enough, 51% of those students also responded that when reflecting back on their application process, that they did not feel that they needed to apply to that many schools now that they were on the other side of their college applications and now an LHS graduate. And of course, additionally, we continue to strive to reach all students and parents in sharing our resources, programs, initiatives by communicating through AM Wired, email, Schoology, and through our websites. Students have in fact told me that they think I'm a robot with how many emails that I send them sometimes. And here, to close it out, you'll see that we obviously are looking ahead, continuing to always look for ways in which we want to grow and improve. We've identified a few goals here, including to really look at our 11th grade classroom lesson that our school counselors deliver along with Nicole here and the follow-up workshops that we offer for 11th graders, comparing and really analyzing what similar districts are doing to really make sure that we're leading in this work and that students going into the summer prior to their senior year are best prepared going into that summer. And as always, we continue to provide the work and the robust opportunities that we are already doing, and we will continue to evaluate and implement changes that we get based on feedback from our students and families, and of course, feedback that we get from colleges as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hi. My question is for those students who are less proactive about things, who are possibly going to community colleges or going to other opportunities, is there an outreach towards them? Because I know that some of them are not going to respond to emails or go to Naviance or other things. Is there an outreach to help them to kind of, move them closer to post-secondary? Because some may not be mature enough or whatever the situation is.
Sure, and I think something to always remember and that we try to bring up in all of our programs is every student, every family is in a different place in this process, no matter what grade level they're in, right? So even in 11th grade, 12th grade. So students, families, parents are always encouraged to reach out to the school counselor, to reach out to me if there's questions, concerns, if a parent is ever worried, concerned, if they feel like their child is maybe not taking the initiative, please, those lines of communication, that collaboration and relationship with home is important. We're not home with you, so as a parent, you're seeing also what's going on at home, how sort of engaged your child is in that process at home too, regardless of what their interest is in after high school. So really in general, not to be too vague about it, but really that outreach to reach out to us, in the department so that we can make sure that we are doing the very best we can and working with you, with your child and as a family to move forward and figure out what that plan needs to be and sort of create the steps to make the action take place and to work together to do that.
Can you remind me what your hypothesis was on the number of states decline that students got accepted to?
We noticed sorry, that was very loud. We noticed a larger population of students being accepted to colleges in New York State. Specifically New York State last year.
But that wouldn't explain the acceptances, like going
So,
from
yeah, we
40
did-
consistently down to 33.
Because it was that was just kind of one notice we had, was New York State.
I'm wondering, I know Texas certainly prioritizes students from the state of Texas. South Carolina has implemented policies to prioritize students from the state of South Carolina. I'm wondering if there's a trend, especially in the southern schools, which have become harder and harder for students to get into, especially from parts up here, if that is part of the trend. And I'm wondering if there's something, the degree to which we're advising students about those trends, making sure students are well aware that, hey, listen, they prioritize students from their state. And in particular, we do see, especially I think even in this current class, a high number of deferments as a result. So I'm just wondering the degree to which we're counseling on those policies around state decision making.
I mean, absolutely. It's something that I know when I'm talking with students, when we're talking about states like Texas, and we're looking, and it's typically one institution in those states. It's UT Austin, it's UNC if we're thinking about North Carolina, obviously USC in South Carolina, Florida as well. UF, FSU are really the two big players in that. And so we are definitely advising students that although your grades may match up, we're looking at lower acceptances. We are out of state. We are not their priority. So we don't categorize that school necessarily as a true target school for that student. And those are very individualized conversations that we're having with each of the students. We typically say anything below 25% is going to be considered a reach school, because they're rejecting the larger majority of students that are applying. Those are continuing to be highly rejective universities. So we are looking at those schools and looking at those states and whatever policies are coming out of that in advising those students. And so I would never let a student leave my office, or I don't think a counselor would as well, that's only going to apply to UT Austin, UNC, USC, and Florida, just as an example.
I want to transition to trades. So we obviously bring in local universities for instant decision days. Have we considered bringing in local trade organizations for that type of similar program, something where those students can receive instant feedback, instant direction, and instant opportunity?
Well, we're definitely, as I shared, we're bringing in more and exploring more opportunities for like visits even within the school, more opportunities to go and take students for visits. In terms of sort of almost like the instant decision day type programs, we'll definitely look into what they also have and offer. Those will be part of the conversations that we certainly have with them. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if they run sort of in the same exact kind of way, but that'll be part of those expansion of adding those programs into our like repertoire of
Yeah,
what we're
I think
doing.
it's critical that we're thinking of those students. I mean, we obviously have a strong program here at the high school. Certainly the way of the world, I think I think we can all recognize is changing dramatically. And I think the more we can do to provide those types of opportunities is critical, and thinking. And so to put more of that in front of students, I think is something that we should consider. Thank you.
And I just want to highlight and shout out to our technology department as well, who've really been great partners with us, because a lot of students are with our tech teachers, and that sort of also cultivates a hub to make sure that collaboration is strong as well. So it's something that we're really passionate about and want to make sure that we're, again, becoming more robust.
Just some questions about testing. What are the trends that you're seeing in testing now, and what are you advising students to do, particularly if they want to go to the four-year college or university?
Yeah, I mean, our advice has not really changed. Even though colleges are test optional, we are still encouraging students to test. We are noticing more schools are going back to requiring test scores. Miami went back like about a year, less than a year ago, but in the springtime, Ohio State as well were kind of the two main players that announced required testing policies. that I would say I was more surprised by. I know many of our highly rejective Ivy League colleges are going back as well. And I don't see that trend going towards test optional. I do see the trend moving towards requiring test scores. So the advisement is staying the same in testing. I know I spoke recently with a student where the parent was like, oh, like they did fine. We think we're going to send them again. And I was like, well, look, if that's your plan, we recommend twice, because then you have the ability to super score if you're able to, unless you're super happy with your score. If you're sending 2 scores to a college that requires you to send all your scores, they're not looking down upon that by any means. So our advice has stayed pretty steady, but we're keeping afloat, I guess the word is.
Keeping the pulse on.
Pulse, yes, on what the colleges are doing. And especially now as we're meeting with juniors, just making sure that they're prepared. And especially, like we said, in this springtime where those decisions are really what's happening. I'm getting a lot of emails of colleges that are saying this is what our decision is.
And there will remain those schools that will be test optional that were test optional before the pandemic, right? So for students who maybe testing is a concern or a stressor, that's also something that we explore with students. So that's just also part of those conversations as well. But really our advisement is strongly to be talking about and planning what does that testing plan look like, because of that overall trend of returning to requiring the tests.
Another question about the Career Kickstart program from the College Board. As we start to offer some of those courses like AP Business Principles, do you anticipate any changes in what the expectations of the colleges are in terms of student programming through their high school years?
I mean, those are conversations we'll continue to have with colleges. You know, College Board continues to come out with more and more and more courses. As we, hear about those courses, we have those conversations and evaluate what we have, where our gaps are, what we're going to offer. And obviously we talk with colleges and they're evaluating our students within the context of our curriculum, and that's, shown through our profile. And those really are important conversations we have at visits when they're here, whenever they are here with us, whether through our college panel, at a college or career fair, in the summertime, whenever we're engaged and having those conversations really throughout the year. We're asking these kinds of questions to make sure we're informed as to what it is that they are really looking for, to make sure that we're advising students appropriately when it comes to course selection and things of that nature, and ensuring that again, we're thinking about all students. College prep courses, especially here at Livingston High School, are preparing students for college. So it's we also have to think about the reality of not every student can be taking all AP courses, and that's just not realistic either. And of course, different colleges and the caliber of different colleges and different majors and all of these different factors, come into play. When we're having these conversations about making sure again that we're advising in the best way that we can for students and about our course offerings.
I just would add, I had an opportunity last week to hear them talking about both AP Business Principles and cybersecurity, and then the projection for AP networking as well. It is really so evolving. They are very much kind of honest about even not being clear who needs to be certified for teaching it and that kind of thing. So I want to say we're keeping a finger on the pulse, but also that they are clearly figuring out as they go along. It feels like they are embracing that whole CTE pathway in a way that they had not before. So they see this in a series of 3 courses, and there wasn't a lot that they were talking about yet in terms of those college expectations or the connections, but it feels like they're trying to build this up. So I do want to reassure you that we're paying attention, but also it didn't feel totally solved yet.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So first question I forgot to ask was, you talked about the programs you run. What's been your participation rate, in particular amongst the parent programs? Are you seeing an increase in the number of parents participating? Are your efforts to reach parents and get them to participate being effective?
We typically have pretty, in the triple digits for any program that we're running. In person, we're filling an auditorium. College and career fair was our biggest, we're packing the fitness and wellness center. But I would say we are always pleased. Obviously, we want to reach as many students and parents as possible. Anytime we're having a program, I'm always getting emails about, is it recorded, which we do record the large majority of any presentation that we're doing. If it's a Zoom webinar presentation, that's recorded and online. So I think that's also been so much more accessible for our students and our families after the fact if they can't make it, on a night that we're having a presentation. So in general, it's just something we're always striving to maintain and just keep up that connection.
One more question. When a student is determining what university to go to, do you inform them which one just won the national championship?
I do for basketball.
I said at the beginning, we don't show our biases.
Maybe one that starts with an I.
Do you inform them which university is the university to have the last two undefeated teams in both college basketball and college football?
Oh, dang. It's a big deal. You deserve you deserve the night.
Decades ago, glory days.
I just have one question about the trade schools. I have to follow that act. Trade school, when you're tracking back at some of these students, are we looking backwards to see what the profiles of these students may have looked like to open up these opportunities and counsel them differently if we needed to?
In general, we're looking at constantly reflecting back in terms of our students, their outcomes, sort of the general, performance of students, course loads that they're taking, GPAs, things of that nature. It's not always the same, right? Sometimes students are accepted even into a four-year college and they might choose a trade school route. Sometimes students know from the very beginning that trade school is what they're interested in. Sometimes they find that is their right path. So that makeup might not always look exactly the same, which is a beautiful thing, I think. But that is sort of that reflection, that examination that each school counselor is also doing within their own caseload. Seniors are reporting back to us throughout the course of the tail end of their senior year, and as we're doing data reflection, especially through the summer, and then meeting with our seniors again in the fall, this is all really important information as we cycle through every year that we're on top of and that we're talking about, even if it's sort of one unique situation over here to be aware of. And in general, sort of, trends that we do see, but, it is a constant thing that we're looking at to be aware of and to look at what certain courses that a student may have taken, pathways within the building, and performance in classes, of course, and reflecting back in terms of how we're advising students, and exploring those opportunities as well, and what they can take advantage of while they're here.
Thank you. We have some partnerships with VOTEC schools, right, which start as early as middle school?
Yes, with Essex County.
VOTEC.
Yep.
Okay, and how has the knowledge about that or participation in that been? How is that program working out? Do we need to explore other VOTEC schools?
So it's really within the county. So we actually had started a parent night that we just last year for the first time partnered with them to host our own parent night for families grades 6 through 8.
We have always invited in Essex County Schools of Tech into Heritage Middle School to have information sessions with our 7th and 8th graders. They hosted their own parent night this year, I think because they had so much interest. So that was shared with our families as well. We don't have a large population of students who attend, I'll be quite honest. Some programs are very, very competitive. So we typically have a small pool of students that may apply each year. Sometimes they may not be accepted because again, some of these programs are very small and very competitive. And we have a lot of really great options here at the high school. So sometimes it's really hard for students and parents to not come here because of what they have to choose from here as well. So it's a hard decision, I think, sometimes for students and parents, especially in 8th grade, to think about something sort of so long in terms of your high school career. A lot of those programs do require you to start in 9th grade because of the coursework, the hours that you have to achieve. So we have a small population who are interested each year, a small population who apply, a population who attend. And we continue to push out that information, push out information we get through the spotlight for all families to be aware of. If there's other ideas on ways that we can, share as well, we want to make sure it's something that families know about. It shouldn't be a secret.
And just my last, the follow-up to Mr. Cohen's question about this trend that we're seeing that the Southern universities are, more selective, if you may. Are we seeing this trend across, like when you're talking to other peers across the state, are they seeing the same trend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Some states want to keep their own.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Congratulations, Indiana.
All right.
Last item for tonight. If you remember last year, we had a video. Yes.
Microphone.
Turn this off.
I haven't been very good at that tonight, have I? Thanks, Dan. If you may remember last year, we did a sort of a district promotional video on the esports gaming group. This year we have a video on October, the Week of Respect, and we're going to play that now.
Hi everyone, I'm Shanae Cruz, Director of School Counseling for Livingston Public Schools, and I'm thrilled to be part of welcoming you to the Week of Respect here in Livingston. In New Jersey, the Week of Respect is officially the first full week in October, mandated by law for public schools to focus on respect. Respect for one another, respect for ourselves, as well as focusing on the prevention of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And here in Livingston Public Schools, we don't stop there. Across our elementary schools, we focus on much more.
So we wanted to come here today to honor our friend who passed away in a car accident. And something about him was that he was very kind to others and loved spreading kindness throughout his community. So we wanted to do the same and come here and do the E-Pledge to spread kindness to these kids. And we want to ultimately spread it to a lot of other schools in Livingston.
Ethan Falkowitz was a person who always prided himself in being kind and made such a large impact on everyone that he met, maybe just for the first time or even once. And we would love to spread that initiative across all of Livingston, not just where he lived in Roslyn, New York, and have everyone understand the impact of being kind, even for just one act.
to put kindness first and cheer each other on.
My example is saying please and thank you to show my act of kindness.
And my act of kindness is holding the door for someone.
What you want from? How you are going to show kindness?
What you're about to see is how we use the Week of Respect to kick off a month-long celebration to focus on kindness, empathy, and positive character, which is further reinforced throughout the entire school year. Fostering this type of positive school climate is essential. When our students feel safe, respected, and included, they are truly ready to learn, create, and grow. Over the next few minutes, we'll visit all of our elementary schools to see their unique and powerful ways of putting respect into action.
So today the event was about the whole school. We walked around the school several times to raise money for charities, so that even if it's cold outside, nobody really cares about that because we're helping people, which is all that matters.
So we were outside playing PE and all of our classmates were having fun going down the slides because it was wet, so they made a water slide.
I remember that we're having a food drive for people that need food and breakfast foods, for cereal and all that stuff. So right now we just did the walkathon, which we raised money, and the people wanted to donate money to the Memorial Sloan Kettering Center for cancer. Some people donated money, and we walked to honor basically the people who are fighting cancer.
I love MPE! We love Simba!
This is happiness. It shines yellow like the sun and twinkles like the stars. This is sadness. It is lonely and blue like a rainy day. It washes over you like the sea. Oh, look, it's going away. Sometimes you want to take out your anger on others. But I'll be nice to you, color monster, and your anger will disappear. So I bet you she's over here and she's being nice to him, and look at his anger going west. Really great? Yvonne, isn't that great?
Some excitement going on here today. We're doing Chalk Talk, and even though it could be a little messy, it could also be a lot of fun, but we're really spreading a message. What might that message be, Brianna?
The message is about spreading kindness, and it shows what it means to you and you could describe that by viewing pictures and words.
All right, how's respect fall into this? Because the whole thing is respect and kindness. I think they go hand in hand. What do you think?
Respect is, so we respect the drawings and everyone admires it. And when people walk by, just walking around the school, they see how much work we put into it.
And does our kindness show that we're respecting each other?
Yeah, it does.
It's inspiring to see all of the incredible work taking place across all of our elementary schools. From themed spirit days to engaging projects, each event is more than just fun. It's a building block for the responsible, caring individuals we want our students to become. These events are not just isolating activities. They are direct contributors to the overall success of our schools, and they directly tie to the LPS Portrait of a Graduate. Every act of kindness, every lesson on respect, moves our students toward becoming those thoughtful communicators, conscientious friends,
and collaborative leaders that we envision. Ultimately, all of these efforts reinforce the core values that guide our entire district. Thank you for joining us to see how we continually strive to live our motto, Livingston Public Schools, empowering all to learn, create, contribute, and grow.
Great job.
That was adorable. All right, with that, we are all done with superintendent report. We are going to move on to board reports. Any board reports this evening? Seeing none, we're going to move to my favorite part of the meeting, student representative report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First off, I wanted to say congratulations to Mr. Stern on behalf of the student body. It's been a pleasure working with you this school year, and I do not doubt that great things are coming under your leadership for our district. Then second off, I just wanted to talk about the conversation I had with Mr. Muhammad today, because I meet with him before every Board of Ed meeting. A few students came to me a little bit worried about AI and its usage within essays and writing assignments at our school. And we kind of just discussed how when students are being flagged for AI, there's a whole process being done to make sure that their document history is being checked, as well as their keystrokes and copy and paste that are going on in the document to make sure that no students are being wrongly accused of AI usage. And I'm very adamant about this because I know that AI checkers can sometimes be inaccurate. So I wanted to make sure that when students are being kind of accused of usage of AI, it's 100% confirmed. And that was a conversation we had, and it was very effective. So I'm very happy that happened. And overall, everything else seems to be going well, and everything's great. Yeah.
That's great. That's what we want to hear. All right, moving on to H. Have a motion for approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I have a motion on 1.1 to 1.5?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I have a motion from 2.1 to 2.2?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.
On 3.1 to 3.11.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're going to approve Mark Stern again. Just kidding. Can I have a motion on 4.2 to, sorry, I was going to approve you again, Mark, to 4.12?
So moved.
Second.
Does anybody have a question?
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Okay. I just wanted to congratulate our 5 retirees, Gina Cavello with 25 years, Gail Ritt with 25 years, Christine Zambrio with 25 years, Jean Peslak with 20 years, and Sherry Kane with 12 years of service, totaling 107 years of service. So congratulations
amazing.
to all of our retirees.
Thank you. We wish you a very, very happy retirement. Roll call.
Mrs. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I have a motion on 5.1?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Mrs. Churls?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Any items for old business? Any items of new business? With that, we are going to adjourn into executive session. No decisions will be made, and we will not be coming back. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Churls?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Gong?
Yes.
Mrs. Yelisevich?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kemka?
Yes.
Motion carries.